So it was somewhat difficult back then to determine what to do as a career. And secondly, wondering whether or not a career would even be necessary or if it would occur, because we were under threat all the time of nuclear attack and other possible scenarios. It was interesting, our high school had, in addition to the typical fire drill, we had duck and cover drills because Rocky Flats nuclear bomb factory was about 30 miles away from us. And we had another additional drill, and that was the nerve gas drill. It was kind of interesting. They would cycle you through showers, which would wash off the drops of nerve gas. Of course, if it were gasified, there wouldn't be much you could do anyway. So I think probably with that kind of background and that kind of history, it was no wonder that there was a lot of cynicism among my classmates. And pretty soon, most of us decided there wasn't a hell of a lot we could do about the threat of nuclear war anyway, because that was up to the politicians, and they were pretty crazy and stupid anyway. And they really didn't care about the public. They just cared about profits and pride and shit like that. So a whole group of us, I'll back up. There's a publication came out about then called Mad Magazine. And many of us were real tired of the stress of the Cold War back then anyway, and decided, what the hell, there's not much we can do about it, so we might as well live. And that group comprised of a lot of radicals, intellectuals, etc. And we hung around coffee shops, reading and writing poetry, playing chess, and trying to play intellectual. One of the slogans of Mad Magazine that was adopted by a lot of people my age was the motto of quid me vexare, which means what me worry. And that's pretty much what was happening then at the end of the 50s. We decided to live. And straight society, or whatever you want to call them, my fathers and their friends, referred to us as beatniks. And most of them were World War II veterans and were real fanatics about hair. They had military haircuts, all the barbershops in town gave pretty much military haircuts, except for a few of them, which catered to the younger set, with the invention of Cookie and his favorite comb and long hair, and the ducktail. So there started to be a generation divide, and it was over hair and patriotism. Now, most of the people growing up in Loveland viewed themselves as patriotic. It was ingrained in us, indoctrinated into us, and was our duty. However, that changed with the advent of the war in Vietnam. But I'll come to that in another episode. The end result was I started at CU and discovered various things other than academics that I'd never known, and ended up having to withdraw in order to save my hide so I could come back again. I didn't adjust too well. One of the problems was that when I graduated from high school, I was 16, and I was a little bit young to start college, particularly at a large institution like University of Colorado. It was more of a research institution than a teaching institution, and it kind of sidetracked me a little bit. So I left and then enrolled at University of Denver, and to continue my feud with my father, I enrolled in the music school there because I figured that was as far away from engineering as I could do, and probably exhibit my frustrations and what I thought of his rules, regulations, etc., as much as I could. Well, that didn't work out too well. I ended up where I couldn't really support myself living in Denver and couldn't pay tuition at University of Denver, which was quite expensive at that time. So I took whatever savings I had left and enrolled in barber school. All the time I was in barber school, I was taking night courses at the University of Colorado in Denver at the extension school there. Because it wasn't my intent to be a barber, although I really enjoyed it. It was one of the more fun things I ever did. And I ended up in a barber shop, or several barber shops actually, in Boulder, and cut hair while I was in school. And that put me through undergraduate school, graduate school, law school, more graduate school, and some digging around, and gave me the level of independence I had never ever experienced or expected to experience in my life. I was married when I was a sophomore in college, and my wife was a teacher, and I could make more part-time cutting hair than she could teaching school, which was pretty good. That security is what gave me the impression that maybe I could even go to law school, which I did, and I did quite well at. I won the Constitutional Law Award for 2 semesters, and had a bit of a library, one of which was about a chief or of a justice of the U.S. Supreme Court that was actually from Boulder, and that was kind of interesting. One of the instructors I had at law school was on the Nuremberg trials as a prosecutor, and that was also interesting. I had a lot of interesting experiences. The best experience and the worst experience was the law school was in Chicago, which was cold as hell in the wintertime, and made standing out in the bus in the winter or breaking ice or pitching hay in the winter sort of like a picnic compared to standing waiting for the train to take me into town from the suburbs or walking from the train station to the school or to the L or somewhere like that. I don't ever want to experience something like that again. So as soon as I got out of law school in Chicago, I headed back to Colorado. While in Chicago, the Vietnam War started up, and I got real active in the anti-war movement, as did some of my classmates. But there was a still mixture of the pro-war feeling, the view of patriotism. One of my best friends was a Union guy who joined the Veterans Administration to show his support for the war.